Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Talk Sports podcast with me, Lucia. I hope you all had a great Christmas and are going to have a good New Year's. Let's pray that it's better than the year that we just had. Let's pray that the vaccines come out and they work and they're good and we can all go back to normal and I can come over and see some games because that would be very, very nice. So let's get into the show. We have the NFC East that is still up for grabs. There are two divisions left in the NFL that are still up for grabs. The NFC East and the AFC South. So, for the NFC East, it can either be between three teams. The New York Giants, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Washington Football Team. Now, I am praying for a miracle that it's the Giants. However, I understand that at this stage, we are the least likely out of them all to win. But I still want them to win. So, the Giants can get in with Washington losing and a win against the Cowboys. The Washington needs to win in order to get through, and even if Dallas or the Giants win, they'll be through because they've got the extra game. And Dallas needs to win and make sure, and Washington needs to lose as well for that game. Actually, no. Yes, that's correct. So the NFC East is still up for grabs. This has actually been a really, really fun division to follow. Even though the football has been absolutely terrible, and I get that the football's been terrible, the later half of this season has been absolutely phenomenal to watch. Apart from the Eagles. The Eagles just suck. They need to clear house. Absolutely. I think from the top down they need to clear the general manager, they need to clear the coach, they need to figure out how to trade Carson Wentz. But that's another story. I'll get into that more once the Super Bowl's done and the off-season starts and we can start talking about trades and all that sort of stuff. The playoff standings thus far. So, all the divisions are clinched except for the NFC East and the AFC South. So, for the playoffs so far, we've got in the NFC West, we've got the Seattle Seahawks. In the new NFC South, we've got the New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in the NFC North, we've got the Green Bay Packers. So that right there is four teams that have clinched their spot. We've got three more teams that have got to clinch their spot as well to go through. So there's got to be one from the NFC East, and then it's either going to be the Rams and possibly the Cardinals, depending on how they go this week. With the AFC, we've got the Buffalo Bills, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs, and we've still got one representative from the AFC South. So the Bills out of the East, the Steelers out of the North, and the Chiefs out of the West. So that's only three teams, so there's still more playoff spots to be had. The only two teams that I know, there's several teams that are not going to make it. So the Indianapolis Colts, the Tennessee Titans are two that could possibly make it through. At the moment, the Titans and the Colts have the same record. They are playing themselves this weekend for the NFC title, the title of it, and I think that the other one is going to get through just by looking at the standings. And then you've got either the Ravens or the Browns. And the Browns are playing the Steelers, and this is a really important game for the Browns to get into the playoffs for the first time in God knows how long. Also, I think the Miami Dolphins are in with a chance too. The AFC West literally is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Kansas City Chiefs only. So, in other news surrounding the NFL, Dwayne Haskins has been released by the Washington football team. This is sort of surprising, but sort of not. If you've heard the news around Dwayne Haskins, is that he had a very bad attitude problem. He was charging people to come to his draft night party last year. Now, whenever you start off like that, are you really more focused on the game or what the game can give you? I've had the same questions about that, the same with Odell Beckham Jr. But Odell actually performs performs out there. Dwayne Haskins didn't. He had a terrible start off, and now he's having an even more terrible season this year. I mean, going to a strip club without a mask in 2020, when there's so many COVID protocols, that we were so close to the end of the season. Really? Do you have to be that stupid? You literally have not that long to go until the end of the season. You could have held on that little bit longer. Anyway, I think Dwayne Haskins will get another chance in the NFL. I seriously do. I think that he could possibly be a good backup to somebody, but he wasn't even, from people within the Washington football team's organization, Dwayne Haskins wasn't even shadowing his elder, his vet. So I just don't know whether he is fully focused on the game itself or what the game can give him. That's a question that I've had several times for different things. Now let's talk about a little bit of college football and the playoffs to get into the college football championship. We have Alabama versus Notre Dame and Clemson versus Ohio State. Clemson, led by the Jacksonville Jaguars' new quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, because the Jets totally screwed themselves. It was upsetting seeing the Jets totally screw themselves with a win last week against the Browns. But I think it might be Alabama versus Clemson in the college football championship game. That'd be fun to watch. Another rematch of that. That would be fun to watch. I think Clemson's got it because they've got Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence is seriously one of the greatest quarterbacks to come out of college. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch it. I can't wait for it. I'm going to be sitting up all day watching the college football. First time in a long time that I've done that. That's going to be fun. Now, let's get into some NBA. It's had its first week. It's been really weird watching the games with an empty stadium. See, when I was in the bubble, I knew that it was going to be empty, and I knew that they were going to do all the virtual stuff. But seeing the Staples Center completely empty while watching Lakers games has been really, really weird and truncated and just annoying to visually watch. The plan so far is to, by the All-Star break, have limited number of fans back in every arena, because that's when the vaccine will become more widely available and readily available. I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping that technology has increased so that we can get people in the stands. Even if it's just that little 5-minute test that they've got going on, that you can get a 5-minute test, find out if you're negative, and then you can go to the arena, because it needs fans in the stands. Like the Staples Center and other arenas need fans in the stands. Don't necessarily need fans in the stands in Madison Square Garden, because I want James Harden to sell the team. Let's talk about champions and not the Knicks, because the Knicks will never be champions. But let's talk about the Lakers getting their rings. The rings were huge. They're the most expensive rings in NBA championship history, which I think every year they're going to just increase the value of them because it's going to be the most expensive. Anyway, they have a nice little tribute to Kobe. Behind every player's number, they have the black mamba snake. And when you take off the top, they've got all the retired numbers, but a special point out for the 8 and the 24 that they are the two numbers that Kobe wore. So yeah, I'm really happy with the rings. They're actually very, very pretty. I really want to buy a replica of them, so I'm going to be looking out for it online. The Nets are finding their footing. However, Spencer Dinwiddie is out. I can't wait to see how the Nets go. They are really good together. People that were doubting whether KD and Kyrie could work together needed to get their heads out of the sand. Because KD is one of the greatest players of our generation, and Kyrie is also one of the greatest players of our generation. He says stupid stuff, but he is phenomenal. When he has got the ball, he can make the defender dance with his handles, his speed, his diversity of shot making. He's incredible. And he's a champion, so is KD. They both had to sacrifice to be on teams. Kyrie a little more than what KD did, because KD was going into a system. I think that Steph, Clay and Draymond deserve a lot more credit for sacrificing than what KD does, but Kyrie definitely when he was in Cleveland, and then when he had that horrible stint with the Celtics. But I really want it to be a Nets-Lakers finals. It would be amazing to see that. Just all the history and all the storylines that are in that would be amazing. James Harden watch. Week 465.3 million days. It's been forever. He's still a Houston Rocket. So just thought I'd update you on that. It's been a couple of days since Christmas, and I was reflecting on how weird the year 2020 was, but especially in sports. So I'm going to round off the teams that have won a championship. We had the Tampa Bay Lightning in the NHL in the hockey. We had the LA Lakers in basketball, my team, and then we had the Dodgers in baseball. And they all had different bubbles. The NFL hasn't. And they're actually proving to you how you can live with COVID and still go on and still produce day to day. I'm impressed with the NFL in that respect. Next week, I will have more of like a year of review type of thing, go through what happened in 2020 and what I hope for in 2021 in terms of sports. So, we have made it to the final week of the NFL regular season. This is incredible. No bubble, no stoppages, no nothing. We've made it to the final week. I think Roger Goodell deserves a high five. So we've got the Lions versus the Vikings. I'm going with the Vikings. We've got the Bucks versus the Falcons. I'm going with the Bucks. We've got the Pats versus the Jets. This is a who cares game because they're both not in the playoffs, so they both have nothing to do with each other. So I'm just going to say special teams game. Probably the Pats. We've got the Bills versus the Dolphins. I am going to go with the Dolphins because the Dolphins actually need this to get into the playoffs. We've got the Browns versus Steelers. I am going with the Browns because the Steelers are resting Big Ben for the playoffs and the Browns need this game. We've got the Giants versus the Cowboys. I'm going with the Giants. I know we can do it. We've got the Bengals versus the Raiders. I am going against the Ravens. I'm going with the Ravens. Got the Colts versus the Jags. I am going with the Colts because the Jags are getting Trevor Lawrence. We've got the Texans versus the Titans. I am going with the Titans. We have the Rams versus the Cardinals. I'm going with the Rams. We've got the Panthers versus the Saints. I'm going with the Panthers. We've got the Bears versus the Packers. I'm going with the Packers. We've got the Chiefs versus the Chargers. I'm going with the Chiefs. We've got the 49ers versus Seahawks. I'm going with the Seahawks. We've got the Broncos versus the Raiders. I am going with the Raiders. And we've got the Eagles versus Washington. I have a feeling the Eagles are going to get up for this game because they don't want to end their season this terribly. I think they're going to get up and just wreak havoc, which is something that they do very well. Next week, I will be talking about the NFL playoffs. Yes, we made it. I'm so happy for that. So in saying that, that is all for this week's episode of Let's Talk Sports podcast with me, Lucia. So I'll catch you all next year. Bye. Happy New Year.